What up, folks? Welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Bruno. This is Trill Billy TV. And the I can't pronounce his name sometimes. A little tongue twister here and there. You know, we're going to keep it rolling. The critical drinker, that is, posted the latest video talking about female action movies are dead. Girl boss fatigue killed them. I know this is going to be an interesting topic, a controversial topic at that. We're going to react to it, man. And at the end of the video, man, I'm going to give you my thoughts. How I feel about this.
When I did my review of Ballerina a few days ago, the most obvious point of comparison was Furiosa, and it's not hard to see why. Both movies were female-led spin-offs from established male action franchises, both starred pretty likeable actresses playing well-rounded protagonists, both came away with solid audience scores and positive critical reviews. There was no backlash, no negativity around them, no controversies or media firestorms, no actors shooting their mouths off.
It's Hollywood, baby.
There it is. I knew it was
Yet,
coming.
both of them flopped at the box office. The question is, why? Well, this is where things get a bit contentious, so pay attention, dear viewer, because we're taking a deep dive into the murky world of film franchises. One of the fundamental problems that both of these films struggled with is that it's always tricky to launch a spin-off from a franchise that's so heavily based around its central character. Franchises like Star Wars or Marvel or Star Trek are bigger than any one character or story, and so they lend themselves much more easily to spin-offs and side projects. It's more about the world than the people in it. Character-based franchises are a completely different story though, because they are the selling point. In this case, both John Wick and Mad Max soon became bigger and more memorable than the actual movies they were part of. Most people would probably struggle to remember the plots for John Wick 2 and 3, but man, they remember Keanu Reeves was fucking cool, and that's what they really gravitated towards. That right there is what kept them coming back for the next installment. Mad Max Fury Road kinda struggled with this problem because Mel Gibson had aged out of the role while the movies were on hiatus, forcing the studio to bring in a younger Tom Hardy to replace him. They more or less got away with that though, partly because the awesome action scenes compensated for it, but also because there was still some kind of continuity there. Even if the actor might have changed, it was still the same character they'd come to know and love over the years. Both Furiosa and Eve from Ballerina didn't have the benefit of all that fan goodwill and attachment. They had to earn it, like they were starting from scratch. They weren't piggybacking off the success of their predecessors, they had to stand on their own merits and earn it for themselves. Unfortunately, their studios didn't seem to understand this and budgeted both movies like they were mainline sequels. To put this into context, the original John Wick brought in $86 million worldwide, which isn't exactly blowing the lid off the global box office, but it didn't have to. It only cost $20 million to make, and so that $86 million haul generated a nice little profit for the studio. Ballerina, on the other hand, is projected to make about $100 million worldwide, which would have been great news if the studio had the sense to budget it like the first John Wick. But they didn't. It cost $90 million to make, more than 4 times as much as the first movie, and so it needs to make 4 times more to turn a profit. And clearly it's not gonna make it. It's the same story with Furiosa. That film brought in $178 million worldwide, which would have been great news if it had cost 40 or 50 million, but it didn't. It cost $168 million. That's insane for a movie with an unproven character from a franchise that always specialized in low-budget action thrillers. My point here is that spin-offs generally don't generate as much interest or as much revenue as the original movies, and if both studios had been realistic about what these films could actually achieve and adjusted their expectations and budgets accordingly, they might have ended up turning a solid profit instead of being depressing flops. Now, that's the business side of the equation, but there's a much bigger problem that's brought down both of these films. A cultural backlash that's been building up for years now and has finally exploded harder than me after a particularly strenuous session with Tatiana. The fact is, audiences today are getting a bit fucking sick of girl boss movies because they've had nothing but girl boss movies shoved down their throats for the past decade or so. And in particular, they're sick of seeing their favourite male-led franchises getting taken over by unlikable, arrogant, abrasive, and infallible feminist power fantasies,
that is one of my
usually written by talentless hacks and embittered.
I'm not trying to pause this video as much, but look, I have no issue with girl bosses, man. But that's one of my biggest pet peeves right there. Don't try to downplay the main male character that's, that we all know and love and stuff. Don't try to put him on the back burner and whatnot. That's one of my biggest aggravating things about that.
activists who they're commanded to like and respect simply because they've been crowbarred in to replace someone far more popular.
Exactly, yeah.
Fan bases don't work like that. The big pop culture franchises are the most obvious and high profile examples of this, but the truth is that it's spread to almost all facets of entertainment. Like, how many times have you been told that some old movie or TV show is getting a revival, updated for modern audiences of course, usually followed by sneering think pieces decrying the original as a dated relic of a less enlightened time, and fawning interviews with pretentious actors up on their soapboxes about how excited they are to bring a modern dimension to their formerly outdated characters. How many times have you seen your favourite male heroes brought out of cold storage just so they can be mocked, belittled, outperformed, and ultimately replaced by their idealised, overpowered female superiors? It's all happened so many times now that even the most easygoing, culturally neutral normies are just kind of fucking done with it. It's exhausting and demoralising, and most people just can't handle it anymore. And at worst, a good chunk of audiences are actively rebelling against it. And what's the end result of all this? Well, in blunt terms, the female action star is fucking dead now. Audiences have been burned so many times now that anytime a new female-led movie shows up, they basically roll their eyes and say, "Oh, here we fucking go, another girl boss." They're unwilling to give any female-led action movies a chance now, to the point where actual good and respectful examples like Furiosa and Ballerina all get lumped together and flushed down the same cultural toilet bowl as the watery shite excreted by Disney, Marvel and Amazon. And when I think about it, that really is a shame, because believe it or not, there was once a time when we really did have it all. Go back as recently as the 2000s or even the early 2010s, and we had a whole bunch of established female-led franchises like Resident Evil, Underworld, Tomb Raider, Kill Bill and The Hunger Games. And you know what? Treated more like a battle to the death that only one side can walk away from, instead of a fun and vibrant genre that encourages new ideas and opportunities. One of the fundamental rules of the universe is that every action has a reaction, and if your action is to spend years shitting on male heroes just to elevate low-quality female replacements, then guess what? The reaction is that audiences will stop watching what you make, whether it's good or bad. The female action star is dead because the girl boss killed it. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Alright, man, y'all just checked out that video from the Critical Drinker. Once again, there's a lot of truth, to his humor and whatnot. And let me just say this. When it comes to the early 2000s, that's definitely was my upbringing, my teen years to my, young adult years. That, 04 to, let's say, 09, you had superb female bosses. Resident Evil, Lara Croft, you had Kill Bill. Back then, regardless, they didn't care if you're black, white, any type of gender. We went out to see those movies because it was just badass. We didn't think about that. And one thing I did notice, they didn't have that type of, they portrayed that female badass, but yet didn't necessarily bash men or whatnot, saying, oh, all men are pieces of shit and stuff. Even though they somewhat did, they held that type of, man, what's the word to say? Basically that just that all around mutual respect. If you catch my drift. And when it comes to, female girl bosses, dead or whatnot, I don't see that happening. Yes, they definitely took a hit. They want to put these type of, messages when it comes to, these certain movies or whatnot with, the feminine, women, feminine power. And I feel like a lot of it has to do with, just horrible writing. Prime example. The past 10 years, you had Harley Quinn, a very beloved, woman, I don't know if you say, I guess, anti-hero or whatnot. She had Suicide Squad when she debuted in that, I want to say 2015 or 2016, somewhere around there. Movie low-key flopped. Birds of Prey, that movie flopped as well. And yet fast forward to, I want to say 2021, I want to say The Suicide Squad, it was just a reboot. That movie somewhat flopped too as well, but yet Harley Quinn, you can put her up there when it comes to just beloved characters, anti-hero characters, whatever you want to call it. But here's one of my main issues. I won't be surprised if pretty soon there will be another Harley Quinn movie that comes out. Despite it being terrible for the past, you can basically say the past 10 years, Those movies that she's appeared in flopped. But what about the other comic book female bosses? Where's Catwoman at? That's one of my biggest things, man. Yes, the Catwoman movie with Halle Berry, that movie flopped, but guess what? That was 20 years ago. How come when you got Harley Quinn, it has flop after flop after flop? She's constantly in these movies, these new movies. No disrespect to Margot Robbie and stuff like that. Great actor. Yet she's still beloved. They keep constantly pushing her out, trying to just get it right for some reason. Bro, you know, Catwoman is just a staple in all around, female or just comic book world. Where's it at? Even when The Dark Knight Rises, whatever happened to, they could have easily been a spinoff of that movie, which, Anne Hathaway, whatever her name, I think her name is Anne Hathaway. I could be wrong. She played, in my opinion, a pretty good Catwoman. People love that. People did not expect to see that. Yes, we saw up and down in that movie, she was kicking men's asses throughout that whole movie, and yes, we loved it. We were here for it. It wasn't the fact that because she was a woman. She stood her ground. Yeah, she even kicked Batman's ass a couple times. And a couple times she said it like, oh yeah, I'm better than you. But yet, she knew when they didn't portray her as this invincible type of female superhero like you do all these modern, Marvel MCU movies. She has her flaws. You saw in the movie when she led Batman, Bane kicked his ass. Basically, she did her part in destroying Batman, and she felt guilty about that. Something that you would not see in a modern day MCU movie. Y'all could have easily had a spin-off version of that. And it's not too late even now. Man, give us a dope Catwoman movie, man. Catwoman is very beloved. But it just goes to show, man, when you put these type of messages in these films, a lot of people don't want to hear that, man. A lot of people, they want to escape, that reality when it comes to politics, when it comes to just, religion, anything in that matter. That serious topics, there are some times where we want to take a break from that, man. Take a break from reality. We want to be entertained. Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, Part 1. When all the females, they got together and they just started whooping ass. We loved it. I remember when we were in the movie theaters, we saw all of them, they linked up together. Bro, we loved it. Men, women, black, white, all colors, whatnot. We cheered for that. We loved it. Scarlet Witch. I've always loved her. Black Widow. It's a badass. Shuri, Okoye, Nakia. We loved them. Even though Okoye, she was like a badass. She low-key, even she herself, she low-key hated men. When I said, I don't even want to say hated man. She had a boyfriend in there. She portrayed that female badass that did not take no shit from nobody. And once again, you saw her kicking ass all throughout that movie, and we loved it. No controversial meaning behind her character, none of those characters, and we loved it. So that's what we want to see. Marvel, DC. Come on now. It's just so simple, bro. Just go back to the early 2000s, man. You saw how those girl bosses were when it comes to these movies. Just go back to that. The golden time, that golden era of the mid-2000s, man. It's not that hard. I don't know what y'all try to do. And obviously, man, y'all struggling because y'all don't know what the future holds in a lot of these DC, MCU movies and stuff. It looks like, y'all finally stepping away from that political, the messages that goes on there. Yes, we get it. We understand we're in crazy times right now, but there's nothing wrong with escape of reality from time to time. I'm just saying. It's your boy Brando. Trill Billy TV. I almost said the Trill exclusive, man. Make sure y'all go and watch those videos as well too. My weight loss, stroke recovery journey. Let's get it. But anyway, shout out to the Critical Drinker. Once again, I don't agree with everything you say, man, but there's always some humor when it comes to that truth. Love y'all. Thanks for all the support, and I'm out.